Okay, this video is some quotes of the Schultz brothers. So this right here is Mark Schultz wrestling Ed Bannock from Iowa in the NCAA finals. At this time, Ed Bannock was a two-time NCAA defending champ, and Mark defeated him, and it was an amazing match, one of the greatest matches of all time in NCAA history. Okay, Mark Schultz was from Oklahoma. He did a lot of things that were kind of strange for a wrestler. For example, he would wear sunglasses to a tournament and not speak to anybody, and he was very intimidating. And he said that he had a low VO2 max, and if he just kept to himself real quiet for about a week before tournaments, it would increase his energy level in competition. And it's true. He was sort of like the most feared wrestler in the whole United States. Everybody was scared of him. This is him after winning the NCAAs. That's his brother Dave Schultz, also an NCAA champion. They both became world and Olympic champions. This is Andre Metzger, who was also an NCAA champion from Oklahoma. Okay, here's a picture of Mark and Dave after they both won Olympic gold medals. Mark was at a higher weight class. He's bigger than Dave. Okay, Dave was about my weight class. Okay, yeah, he used to beat the hell out of me. But I learned a ton of stuff from him. It was very helpful to me. I learned mostly psychological stuff from Mark Schultz, and I learned mostly technique stuff from Dave. Here's a picture of Mark, in an international competition after winning something. Here's a picture of Dave. This is actually in the Olympic finals against the German Martin Nasp. Here is a picture of me talking to Mark Schultz at a tournament when he had injured his ankle there. This is a picture from wrestling practice over at Stanford. We were just joking around. We had the throw mat out, and there's a chin-up bar, and he's jumping off the chin-up bar to pretend that it's just a plastic toy knife. It was just goofing around. This is Mark and Dave Schultz. As a team over at Stanford, this is the Hoover Monument, so to speak, and that's the Stanford campus with the classic red roofs, sandstone buildings. We would run sprints as a team for getting in shape. Okay, and that's where I noticed that Dave Schultz at the time, he was kind of fat. He was slow at running. Mark was fast. Mark had more athletic ability than Dave did. And he was a slow runner. He was weak in the weight room. I'm like, how did a guy who's fat, weak, and slow become a national champion? National champions are usually more like Mark. Strong, fast, powerful, quick, muscle men, okay? So anyways, I'm going to share with you some of these quotes here. Okay, here's another picture of Dave in international competition. Oh, here's the famous book, Foxcatcher by Mark Schultz, that became a big movie, his best-selling book. It's a good book. Every wrestler should read that book. Okay, so here's a quote by Mark Schultz, one of his quotes. He said, "To be successful in an area, you have to respect the people who are already successful in that area. If you disrespect them, then you are disrespecting the thing that you want to become." Yeah, so that's pretty important. Mark Schultz, it's not what you know, it's who you are. And I can remember things Mark Schultz said, when he was a young guy, he just got out of Oklahoma, three-time NCAA champion. He said, right now the only thing I own in the world is my motorcycle, and it's a piece of crap. But that doesn't matter because my goal is to be an Olympic champion and a world champion, and that's what I'm focused on. And that was true. He used to say all kinds of things to me. He would tell me all these stories, because I went through a phase where I was thinking about dropping out of Stanford, quitting wrestling, because I had recurrent injuries, and I didn't really like Stanford. It's a pretty lonely place. And he's like, "Rogers, you stick around. You just need to hang around with the wrestlers. Hang around with me the next couple of months. You're going to be fine." So I hung around with Mark Schultz and wrestled in all the spring and summer competitions, and the next year I came back and won Student Athlete of the Year award, set the all-time school record for most victories in a season with 39. So it was very good for me. I wished I had talked to the Schultz my first day instead of waiting until the spring of my sophomore year. Anyways, what would happen is he would tell you all the stories of these guys who defeated the Russians, won world championships, World Cup championships, Tbilisi tournament championships, NCAA championships. And what happens when you're around that enthusiasm just wears off on you. And Schultz will say, "You're too easy on yourself. I was so much harder on myself than you. I would rather die than lose." And he'd go on, "My goal was to be the best fighter in the world." And he would go on, and it would just get you so inspired, Well, gee, if he could do that, the least I could do is win our dual meet, the next match coming up. So it had a very positive effect on me. It was very inspiring. Here's a typical quote from Dave Schultz. He would read all the Musashi stuff about the Japanese samurai guy. And this is one that he could relate to. He said, I wouldn't say Musashi is ordinary, but he is. That's what's extraordinary about him. He is not content to rely on whatever natural gifts he may have. Knowing that he is ordinary, he is constantly trying to improve himself. No one appreciates the agonizing effort he's had to make. Now that his years of training have yielded such spectacular results, everybody's talking about his God-given talent. And that is how men who don't try very hard comfort themselves. So yeah, Dave Schultz, when he was in junior high, he started out riding his bicycle to the high school team. He came from the Palo Alto area, so he'd go to Pali High, and he would train with the high school guys when he was in junior high. And then he started training with the college guys. By the time he was a senior in high school, he was the best guy in the whole United States. He defeated the defending national champion, Chuck Iagla, and pinned him, caught him with a throw. And what I'm trying to say is that's extraordinary. I mean, a high school kid beating an NCAA champion from Iowa? No way that ever happens. And he did. And that would be the kind of things he did. He went to Russia and kicked the crap out of the Russians. He won Tbilisi, all these sorts of things. Okay, and Mark was a late bloomer. He had been really good at gymnastics, and he came along, and he's just so intense that he very rapidly improved with Dave. Dave used to beat the crap out of him all the time, and he figured out the way to handle Dave was just stall, just be defensive. And so he would just be in a completely defensive, stalling position until Dave would get frustrated and tired. Then he would score on him, and that's how he was able to compete against Dave. So anyways, what I can tell you is if you want to be great at something, hang around with people who are great. And if you can't hang around them in person, read their books, watch their videos, and study them, because then it sort of rubs off on you, their mindset, the way they think, their intensity level, and you'll just get way better. Like Dave Schultz, he could never compete with anybody on physical strength or endurance, but he figured out that with technique, you could dramatically improve, and you could be 1,000 times better at other people's technique. You can only get about 10-15% better endurance than them physically, 10-15%, maybe 20% stronger than them, but there's always going to be lots of guys who are strong with a lot of endurance. But there's a shortage of guys that have tremendous technical skill and knowing all the moves. Okay, when Dave Schultz was young, he was dyslexic and he was fat, and they'd call him, you fat, stupid loser, and he just devoted himself to wrestling, and all of a sudden he just kept getting better and better. And again, because it's algorithmic, exponential, the improvement that comes from technique. All that stuff about cutting weight and lifting weights is stupid. If you want to be great at wrestling, you got to be a mat rat. You got to hang around in the room every day after practice with people who want to get good, with people who know technique. You got to compete in all the spring and summer competitions to rapidly increase your experience. Go to camps when you can. Read the books on technique when you can. Nowadays, you got YouTube to watch the videos on technique or buy DVDs on technique. All of that stuff will rapidly advance you. And Dave did all kinds of things. He taught himself how to speak Russian so he could communicate with the Russians because they were the best in the world at that time. And he would go there and he'd learn their technique. And he would get better than them. And Mark Schultz, too, he would just focus so obsessively on defeating guys who were in his way for becoming the best. Like when he went to Oklahoma, he had to defeat a guy named Shepard, who was an All-American, and Mark defeated him. So anyways, those are some of the quotes and thoughts and things I learned from the Schultzes. From Mark, I really learned a lot of mental toughness and intensity. That doesn't necessarily translate well into words, but just being around him, you like all of a sudden felt, why shouldn't I win? Why shouldn't I win more often? And he would say things like, your opponent out there, he's not your friend. He's your worst enemy in the world. He's trying to beat you up and humiliate you in front of your friends. He's your worst enemy in the world. Don't hold back and all this stuff. Anyways, I hope you found that helpful.